It's a plot to drop the IQ, fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly, suggestions that obliterates and camouflage the folly. Attempt the mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome back to Rogue Soul, where tonight we are talking about the news, the worldwide occurrences of things that seem important to us in society on the Winning Report. The Winning Report, of course, we look at all those things with the remembrance of our soul, our eternal nature, and the fact that we have already won before we began. So here we are experiencing the win, even if sometimes it looks a bit dark, which, oh, has it recently, of course, in this apocalypse. As the veil is lifted, more and more people are seeing the true nature of evil in this world, as humans are capable of manifesting the darkest of darknesses. So we just commit even harder to the light, because we are also capable of manifesting that. And that is what we're committed to here. So let's get into it tonight. Of course, you can go to roguesoul.org, schedule one-on-one spiritual and healing sessions with me, take classes, go to the shop, check out the Orgone, check out my books, Channeled Through For You, fictional trilogy. It seems fictional, but it's actually just turns out to be true. And you can enjoy those adventures through the Sine Curve of Eons trilogy, as well as the direct source channeled messages. And you can go to Substack to keep in touch for events like the blessing I'm doing tonight for abundance. We do Violet Flame Vigils. We do all kinds of things that you're welcome to join us for, Lightning Oracle Tuesdays and more. All of that you get alerted to by Substack. So if you want to join Substack for free, you can get those alerts, as well as plenty of articles I write about health and wellness, philosophy, religion, and more. And if you want to be at the paid level, you both support me in what I do, thank you very much, and also get your channeled messages as they come through. So go to rogueways.substack.com for that. And here's the news. We are going in order of when I received these things to newest to oldest. So just now coming out, that a city was sued after it rolled out its reparations. This reparations thing has taken root, unfortunately, in many places, not just California, it's also spread. But this is from Illinois. The Reparations Committee of Evanston, Illinois, announced last week that it was moving forward with a plan to pay out a sizable reparations to Black residents. In total, $1.1 million would be doled out, amounting to 25,000 payments to 44 individuals. Why just 44? Like they only have 44 Black people? No, it turns out the 44 individuals are descendants of people who claimed that they experienced housing discrimination in Evanston between 1919 and 1969. Okay, that's actually a reparations I maybe could get behind. I'm not still clear on why, like, the taxpayers have to pay that back. Maybe, you know, the banks or someone else, whoever was in charge of that decision, their family needs to pay it back. You know, who knows? But at least it makes more sense than trying to figure out who's descended from the slaves that we may have had here in the United States and then pay them based on everybody's taxes. Everybody has to bear the sins, right? And pay these people. So this is at least a little different. And maybe even a little bit more fair. I don't know. Let me know what you think. That's interesting. So, but they are suing. They says the government shouldn't pick winners and losers based on characteristics that are separate from sort of merit. And so, you know, how they're selecting people is in question. So they're getting sued for offering reparations to those people, of course. Of course they are. You could, even if it was a good thing, like you couldn't count on it just happening. Someone has to sue for it, right? So that's happening in Illinois, or Illinois, I should say. We have Rand Paul vowing to ask ICE director to apologize for Renee Good and Alex Preddy shootings. Again, whatever you feel would be right or wrong morally here, it's actually a question that might come down to a legal question, because I don't know if you know this, but if you apologize to someone, it is the same as admitting guilt in the eyes of the law, or it can be. And so, this is why many places will not apologize, even if something bad actually happened, because they want the chance to not be held accountable, or in this case, to not be attributed guilt. So if Alex Priddy or Renee Good's family were then to seek, again, some kind of reparations, or to sue the ICE, the city, the federal government, who knows where they would take it, then this would be like an admission of guilt. And so it wouldn't be intelligent to do. So, as people outside of a legal system, apologizing might be nice, especially if you're, not necessarily saying that you feel guilty that something wrong or inappropriate happened, but just that, oh, that was a tragic thing. I'm so sorry for the loss people experienced. That'd be great. But this is a little bit more complicated than that. So I don't know that that's going to pan out in Rand Paul's direction. And I don't know if that's why he's asking. He might be asking for that apology so that it would be easier to sue them. Who knows? But probably not the most intelligent thing for them to do. They're probably not going to issue that apology. So Trump's EPA has terminated Obama's 2009 endangerment finding declaration, which had determined that CO2 and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare, and provided the legal basis for regulating greenhouse gas emissions under the Clean Air Act. Terminated. So no more regulating of supposed greenhouse gas emissions. I don't know if you knew this, but CO2 is actually quite good for life on Earth, both because plants thrive in CO2, and high CO2 is even better. In fact, greenhouses will intentionally produce CO2 inside the greenhouse so that the plants have more of it. And I don't know if you knew this also, but we eat plants to survive. And I don't know if you also knew that animals that we eat plants to survive. So CO2 is actually good for Earth. And also possible warming or changes in the climate are almost positively not connected to gases or pollution, and almost entirely dependent on cosmic galactic fluctuations and solar fluctuations, at least on the solar system level, and otherwise even further out. And that's actually what changes the climate of Earth. So yeah, good. Be done with that delusion. That'd be great. Over in Europe, in Iran, we have the European Aviation Safety Regulator updating its advisory for European Union airlines to avoid Iranian airspace, extending it to the 31st of March, so beyond whenever it was in February that was supposed to expire, now extended an extra month. So Iran is still not feeling settled to anybody. And we're also sending more of our warships, our carriers, that direction. Trump is talking tough on Iran, saying they better accept a deal or it won't go well for them. And so we'll see what's happening there. It's been a bit chippy out there. So we'll see. Ireland's proposed new framework for the defense forces includes mandatory, quote, gender diversity and unconscious bias training, a new senior position of gender advisor, and fast-track citizenship for foreign nationals. Oh, wow. Poor Ireland. It's interesting to note that in Ireland and Scotland, as we talked about last week, many migrant housing facilities are being burnt to the ground. And so I don't know how happy people will be to learn that you can come there potentially illegally or pseudo-legally, and then get fast-tracked into citizenship by joining the military. You might think, oh, good, we have more people fighting for us, but you might also wonder, how dedicated to our country can you be if you just got here and didn't work too hard to do it? I don't know if those are the people I'd want to fight alongside necessarily. And so gender diversity and unconscious bias training would be very interesting for that exact population, actually. Maybe it'll help with all of the misunderstandings that lead to massive amounts of rape in those places by the refugees, supposed refugees that have been flooding their country. Yeah, maybe it'll help with that. Probably not. I don't know if you can detect the note of sarcasm here, but probably not. The U.S. has purchased and smuggles, hold on, what? U.S. purchases and smuggles roughly 6,000 Starlink terminals into Iran. Okay, yes, the U.S. has smuggled Starlink into Iran. I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago, Iran went through house to house and ripped out internet, ripped out any Starlink, anything that was sort of outside of the networks they had already shut down, from a centralized location. And so they really scrubbed it there. So it's very difficult to know exactly what's going on there, has been difficult for some time. And so the US is smuggling in all these Starlinks. So we may begin to see more images, more streams. From what we had been seeming to see was massive uprisings and then a pretty heavy crash down onto the people who were part of those uprisings. The uprisings seemed to be exceptionally popular, meaning you couldn't possibly get that many people in the street if it weren't very much the majority of people who supported overthrowing that sort of religious theocratic rule there and that tyranny. And so would be good, again, in my opinion, to have a freedom there, freedom from that theocracy at least. And, of course, the US and Israel are going to have their fingers in that pot. So ideally, that allows more freedom for the people there and hopefully self-determination, right? In the meantime, they don't have that, and Starlink might help. So, well, we can hope, right? Hope for the people there to create freedom for themselves. A judge has confirmed Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the BBC will begin February 15th. That's just a few days away. In Florida, oh, nope, sorry, 2027. A few years away, next year, about a year away. So 10 billion defamation lawsuit against the BBC. Will the BBC still exist then? We'll find out. How far into the geomagnetic excursion and Earth changes will we be? And which direction are we going in them? I don't know. Will Florida still exist then? So these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves as everything changes. With Trump's approval, border czar Tom Homan announces that the deportation surge operation in Minnesota will conclude. I've always wondered because, it's been interesting. The police have finally been coming out. They've finally been arresting some of these people who were jumping in the way of cars and doing all that kind of stuff. And so, law has been being upheld and consequences have been doled out to people who break laws. And so that's been, in my opinion, good to see. The law and order are nice. And then that has allowed much more of the deportation work that ICE is doing to continue and to have even higher numbers. And so maybe they just have accomplished the goal now and they're done. Other people are saying, Minnesota won and, they're being ran out and all of this. And I mean, let them think that. That's cool. I don't think that's actually the case. But I guess it's anyone's choice what you think about it. So you pick, choose your own adventure. Microsoft AI CEO Mustafa Suleyman says that most, if not all, professional tasks undertaken by white-collar workers will be fully automated by AI within the next 12 to 18 months. And I believe him. This is definitely the way things are going. Most of that white-collar work is pretty low level. Honestly, I was surprised to learn that as an adult, that a lot of people who work in corporate and office situations don't really do that difficult of stuff. And a lot of it is communication based, like telling this person what's happening over there and this other person and finding out what you need from that person, compiling data or reports, and AI can do all that. So if you're not kind of creative, innovative, high-level thinker, problem solver, which AI might be able to do some of that now too. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting how the world changes. In my world, I've been thinking about that since before 2012, right? That was a thing. I knew a lot of what we would now maybe call technocrats, but people who are transhumanist actually and very technologically savvy hacker types and that sort of thing. And this was always on the mind of the thinkers in those realms of what are we going to do when everything becomes automated, when we have AI and we have robots. And so what work is left? And this is part of why, was it Andrew Yang, I want to say, who ran for, I think, the Democratic ticket, maybe it was Republican. Yeah, I can't remember, but whoever was proposing that we give everyone basic universal income. It was a little too early, but that's because he comes from that same group of types of people that I was just describing who have been thinking about this for years. What are we going to do when there's no work left? You can't just kill everyone. I mean, you could. Don't get me wrong. Like some people want to do that to you, but if you don't do that, you have to actually create a way for people to still live without having a job. And it's not the same as like a welfare state. Well, it is, but like it's a different ideology behind it because you're not just rewarding people for not succeeding in life and not doing anything. You're just saying, yeah, we realize there's no jobs left because we figured out how to have robots do them all for us. So, here's your housing, your food, and whatever. And now do what you like with your time. So very interesting, and also interesting to think like how could we do that constructively? What could we do with our time if our time is freed up? People have talked about that forever, right? What could we do if we didn't have to struggle to survive? Would you do art? Would you do play all day long? Just play? Would you, I think honestly, we would have a resurgence of face-to-face community sorts of events and interactions and stuff because that's what's fun, right? Going to plays, putting on plays, getting ready for plays, like, those types of things, music and art and philosophy. But that's not everyone's thing, right? So culture would have to change deeply too. So it's just a fascinating problem. And it's interesting that we're right on the precipice where people have been thinking about it for a long time, but here we are. It's happening. And how is humanity going to handle that? Hopefully, well, it can be done. It's just not everyone's thinking that direction. So back to the EU, the parliament has voted to accept a report that calls for, quote, the full recognition of trans women as women as part of the EU priorities for the UN on women's rights and gender equality. Not good for women and girls, not good for women and girls' spaces or sports or achievements or the ability to feel safe without predatory behavior. Not good at all. Not even good, in my opinion, for the people who consider themselves trans. And what's okay about this, though, is that the EU is failing. The EU and the UN are on the way out. I don't know if you knew this or not, but like they're not going to be around very long. So they maybe don't know that they're in their own death throes, but they are, and that's not even a question in my mind. That's like one of the for sure things that's taking place. And so we have every reason to believe as well that it's going to be replaced by the Board of Peace. So ideally, it's not worse than what we've had. Hopefully, it's better. We'll see. We've already been told it's a technocratic Board of Peace, right? This is all coming out of Israel and Palestine's conflict. Allegedly, this is the fix for it, and it's definitely true. I mean, just on a monetary level, the EU and the UN are deeply losing the game, and the Board of Peace has already distinctly surpassed them by orders of magnitude, right? So it's a done deal. Like the game is over. The technocrats have won. It's just how long will it take the old money and the Satanists and the old structures of the globalist worldview to sort of admit defeat and let go? Who knows? Ideally quickly, but there they are, still pushing the trans thing. Even now, they won't acknowledge that they haven't won. On a similar vibe, the International Auschwitz Committee is calling for a ban on the AfD. This is the party in Germany that is the only party in Germany that in any way intends to keep Germany German. This is the only party in Germany that acknowledges that massive influx of supposed refugees, asylum seekers, and immigrants has been a disaster, and that culture is not respected, and that especially Christianity is under attack, and that white Germans are under attack, and it is the only party that's giving voice to the vast majority of Germans who are no longer feel comfortable with this situation. So they've been attacked left and right. I don't know if you remember on previous winning reports, we talked about the AFD suddenly losing like 5 of its most prominent leaders to sudden accidents and suicides, and like that's not fishy at all. So deep attacks on the AFD, and now the International Auschwitz Committee is calling for a ban on the AFD, saying German people are making it unbearable for Holocaust survivors. This is so garbage. It's such a garbage take. If being German and being proud to be German is threatening to you as a Jewish person, you need counseling and therapy. You don't have the right to tell Germany not to be Germany because you're Jewish. That's not an acceptable use of your victim card. Sorry, not sorry. So long live the AFD party. Oh, and we have this shooting in Canada that has happened, and perhaps you've heard tons about this. This happened, I think, just yesterday as of this recording and stream. It is a boy. God, I wanted to get out his information before I get to this part. So this is part of where going out of order isn't as helpful. Let me find a post on this. There it is, Jesse Van Rootselaar. You may have heard a different last name because they were misidentifying which last name he had based, I think, on his mother or something, and his father and whose last name he had. But Jesse Van Rootselaar was the name of the shooter. This is a biological male, young adult, not yet adult aged, and so child, and he has identified as female for a few years. I think had started to go through transition chemically, is what I recall hearing. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police say that they will continue to identify him by his gender of choice, which is female. So they're going to use she. So that's the kid. That's the situation with referring to the kid. You may have seen the hilarious post before they released his name, where they were saying the gun person, da, da, da. So you instantly knew it was a trans person because they wouldn't, give us a he or she or any of that. So we knew it was a trans shooter again, which, by the way, it's like the 15th mass trans shooting and killing in the Americas in the past few years. There have been no mass murders that weren't by trans people for some years now, and in the US. And so, yeah, not that surprising to people who've been paying attention that this is continuing. He went into his school after killing his mother and siblings. He went into a school and he killed 10 kids and injured 25 other people. Some of them may, I think, die. Their injuries are grave in some cases. Send prayers to those people and those families. I'm not going to lie, I haven't yet looked into this enough to kind of identify if there's any false flag markers or any of that. But my initial, just brief sort of look at this is that it seems real. And so it seems like it's actually a person who actually did that and actually killed these people, and potentially without prompting by any sort of, hidden hand. So except a demonic one. That's always potential too. This person tended to take lots of drugs, mind-altering drugs, really heavy drugs. For a young person to have even a lot of marijuana can cause psychosis in young people, actually in anyone, to be honest, but especially in young people. But also this person was doing mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, LSD, and also DMT. So for a young person who's already deeply mentally unstable to do all of that, we have to wonder if that played a part. They were on SSRIs. And then again, like I said, potentially also these hormone treatments, all of that, and you're still under 18, you're still a developing person. It is not that surprising that you lash out this violently. It's a disturbing amount of violence for sure. But it's also really sad because that person, his mother, had these public posts that people found that were saying that she had feared for her other children and that Jesse seemed to enjoy hurting them. So Jesse had signs of psychopathy, or at least sociopathy, long before Jesse carried this out. And when somebody is claiming to be trans or genuinely feels they're trans but is suffering that much dissociation and lack of ability to empathize and the enjoyment of harm and suffering of others, that should have raised so many red flags long before this ever occurred. So this was yet another preventable mass murder, and it doesn't have anything to do with who has guns. It has nothing to do with who has guns. It has everything to do with the level of depravity of this person, the mental illness of this person, and then piling in the chemicals into this person. That's what it has to do with. That's what makes it preventable. They're going to tell you that it's guns and, oh, we should cancel the guns and ban the guns. Don't know if you know this, but in Canada, they've essentially already banned all guns. So they're already there. They're already at that point and beyond. So you cannot blame this on this. You can't say more gun control would have prevented this. You can say SSRIs, chemicals, and the lack of therapy of the actual root issue this person had, and instead, submitting to their delusions and affirming their delusions, that all was what made it preventable, right? So yes. You also could have known, again, there was plenty of signs. They enjoyed hurting their siblings. They posted all the time on Reddit about committing arson and committing harm and enjoying it, about losing control of themselves. They're very likely this person was potentially schizophrenic. And the amount of times they talked about, kind of coming to and realizing they had done and said exceptionally damaging, horrible things. All of that should have raised red flags. I feel really sad thinking about the mother. I mean, maybe she played a large part in it, but maybe she had an actual psychopath on her hands, and nobody ever supports mothers. I mean, what do you do when your child really did just come out broken? That happens. It is not always that some horrible trauma happens and that triggers them into some sort of psychosis. Sometimes you come through this way. Sometimes you carry that through. And so what do you do as a mom if your child just is a psychopath, just is a sociopath? You don't want to admit it. You're in denial. I don't know. I don't know her story. I don't know exactly what happened. I'm just saying I have some compassion for what could be the case because we don't have support for psychopathy in children in general. So another one of the signs of this shooter's mental depravity and possible sociopathy or worse was that the Tumbler Ridge that's the school that he shot up. The Tumbler Ridge shooter's Roblox account was discovered, and they had built a mall shooting simulator that was modeled precisely on a real Canadian mall nearby, so that it looked exactly like this mall, and it was a mass shooting simulator. So you could go there and pick from all these guns and then go in and shoot everyone in the mall. So they had thought about mass shootings for so long that they actually designed a perfect replica on Roblox to live out their fantasies. The account was deleted, but the game is still there. So apparently on Roblox, you can go in and download other people's games or simulations and play them. I don't know. I've never played Roblox, but that sounds like what it is. So you can still go do it. People are getting screenshots and grabs and playing this as we speak. Hopefully they'll take it down. I've heard Roblox for many reasons is a cesspool of horror that you shouldn't let your kids into. So ideally you're not. But yeah, so that was another one of the signs. So this kid was disturbed. He seems to have finally acted out on some pretty dark energies that he had been harboring for some time. And God bless all of the victims and the people affected by him. And I don't remember at the moment whether he killed himself in the end or if he's still alive, but hopefully he killed himself. All right, sad. All right. PepsiCo spent $2.8 million last year lobbying to keep junk food eligible for food stamps to purchase. And when RFK got 18 states to ban SNAP purchases of soda, candy, and processed snacks, within a week, PepsiCo cut Doritos, Lay's, and Tostitos prices by up to 15%. So the CEO blamed affordability, but the timing tells the real story. This person says, they say SNAP is a $100 billion a year program, and according to the USDA, 20 cents of every SNAP dollar goes to junk food. Frito-Lay products appeared in 7.2% of all SNAP shopping trips. So they knew they were going to lose so much money because in those states, their SNAP buyers no longer could buy their junk food. So they lowered the prices, hoping they would buy them with their other money. It's pretty hilarious. It makes me, it's one step closer to understanding exactly why we need to ban junk food on SNAP. And I've had SNAP before. I actually have SNAP now, and that's because I literally make under poverty levels, and I applied for healthcare support, and in doing so, they gave me SNAP, and I'm not going to refuse the help. So I use SNAP. I just buy my normal groceries. I just buy like the food I eat, which is healthy and organic and natural and good. So I won't have any problem with them removing junk food from SNAP if they do so. And I also won't have any problem if they take away my SNAP eventually, because, I have learned that even living in poverty, I don't actually need SNAP in order to survive. And so I'm happy to help you if you're out there wondering how you survive on SNAP. Happy to help you with that. It's quite easy to eat very healthy on a really, really tiny budget. I'll give you a hint. It involves oatmeal, rice, chicken, and vegetables. Done. You're done. You don't need anything else. You're good. Fruit every once in a while, right? And a jaw-dropping disclosure, American President Donald Trump's Board of Peace, remember I was talking about this, is likely to replace the entire United Nations. The United States has approximately ceased their $2 billion in funding, rendering the UN ineffective. And approximately 30 countries have already joined the Board of Peace. With monetary donations, by the way. To be a member of the Board of Peace, you have to commit a certain amount of money to it. So like I was saying earlier, that's why it's so far successful and definitely going to overtake the dying EU and UN. Whether we like it or not, I'm just reporting the facts here for you. It's not an endorsement, although I'm happy to see the UN and the EU go by the wayside. And I'm curious to see what the Board of Peace does or doesn't do, right? Definitely could be full of horrors, and it might not. You don't know yet. So more Epstein stuff. I didn't want to separate it out this week, so hopefully there's not too much. If you want to see like a big deep dive into the Epstein thing, go watch the recent Epstein episode I did just on Epstein and this disclosure and more. But here is someone pointing out that Epstein sent an email to Ghislaine misspelling the word children, chidlren. So they just swapped the L and the D, chidlren, in September of 2012. And 1 month later, Trump tweeted about missing chidlren grabbed by perverts. Quite a coincidence, that one. And there's a post also here from Q saying misspellings matter in a seemingly unrelated post. That was way back in 2012. I was trying to tell people who care to listen, care to get beyond whatever bias or attachment they have to their preconceived notions, that Trump is not only the least indicated as an evil person in these releases, but it's also indicated 1,000 different ways that he has consistently and always been acting to attempt to take Epstein and the pedivores down. So turns out that's another Q-like thing that might actually be true. I'm as surprised as everyone else if it's so. Less surprised as I go, to be honest, but would not ever have been my expectation about Donald Trump. That's for sure. Every single Colorado Democrat just voted to indefinitely postpone a bill that would give life sentences to predators who sex traffic children. Every single Democrat. Why do they do that? This is like a consistent Democrat take. We just talked about Virginia. As soon as they got their Democrat governor in, they took away the ability to contest any election for any reason. There can be no recounts for any reason. That's a law now there. And they made it so that sex crimes don't have as much of a repercussion. Sex crimes against children. That's Virginia, a Democrat-run Virginia. California, same, when Democrats are consistently taking away sentences and repercussions for sex trafficking and for sex crimes against children. And now in Colorado, Democrat run, we see the same thing again. Why are Democrats such pedophiles? You guys have to answer for this if you're a Democrat. Your elected officials are out here making life better for sex offenders, for pedophiles, and for sex traffickers of children, especially with all the Epstein stuff. You have to take you matters into your hands, vote in different people, or leave the Democrat Party and make it die, because this is crazy at this point. This is a consistent pattern. Democrats are pedophiles. Spread the word. U.S. House has passed the Save America Act. They had already done that last year, and it was still waiting for the Senate to pass. So this might be the Save 2 Act, which is even more stringent. Makes it so there's no mail-in ballots, and you have to prove citizenship in order to be able to vote. I'm all for it. And the main arguments against it are that Black people and women are too stupid to have the right documents, which is incredibly sexist and racist. But they want to say that you are sexist and racist if you don't agree, which is crazy. It's literally backwards la la land. Like, everything I say is backwards. It's reverse day for Democrats all day, every day. They will literally tell you married women, divorced women don't know how to get something in their actual legal name, and that Black people can't get IDs. I'm not kidding you. And if you go tell a Black person that, it will hurt their feelings deeply to learn that there are white people that aren't Republicans who think that they're too stupid to get an ID, or that they can't, like they don't have enough money, or that they can't. Yeah, they're just like, what? Like, white people think that I don't carry an ID on me? Like, it's sad to watch. Go watch some of the videos where they ask Black people, do you have an ID? Like, yeah, of course I have an ID. Like, did you know that Democrats think you don't know how to get one? They're like, what? And you show them all the Democratic leaders that are like, you can't ask Black people to have ID. That's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, women and Black people are stupid if you're a Democrat, but that's not racist to say. But if you don't agree with them, you're a racist. Just trying to tell me how that works. Okay. Do we even care? What is this? Keith Frankel is operating partner at a private equity firm. The new Jeffrey Epstein emails show that he was regularly at Epstein's home. Here's where it gets crazy. It says, one thing was mentioned in the Epstein files is children are being trafficked out of Ukraine. Well, Keith Frankel and his family run a children's home that takes children out of Ukraine. Well, I'm way more worried about this than I am about Erica Kirk. So that's one thing to know. Private equity and trafficking of children, they seem to go hand in hand sometimes in this depraved world. God protect the children. I'm glad it's coming to light. Maybe we actually will protect the children sooner or later. Democrats won't, but maybe someone will. Okay, yes, we know the BC school shooter is trans. That has come out. We talked about that. US-born Olympian Eileen Gu has defended her decision to represent China in the Winter Games. She is currently gold in at least one category. This is Eileen Gu. She's a US-born, but her mother was first generation from China. And so China essentially paid her giant amounts of money in order to change her citizenship when she was 15 years old, knowing that she would probably get to the Olympics and that it usually takes 2 or 3 years of a citizenship in a country for the Olympics board to honor your request to represent that country. And so she did that early. So they got in early. They paid her a shitload of money. She switched her citizenship to China. Here's the catch. She didn't actually let go of her US citizenship. And generally, China at least doesn't let you do that. But I guess in this case, they allowed it because they wanted her to represent them. If you listen to her, look at her, anything, she has no Chinese culture about her. She doesn't speak Chinese. She didn't grow up in China. She just got paid to represent China. And now she's won the gold for China. And so I say, you're a traitor. You're a US You're a US athlete and Olympian, and you were a traitor and you gave the gold to China because they bought it from you. So you're also a sellout. That's what I have to say about Eileen Gill. The Pentagon ordered a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East for Iran. We talked about that a moment ago. What is this? Not supposed to be drinking coffee this late, guys. What am I doing? The U.S. State Department just filed a sworn record in federal court calling the UK-based Center for Countering Digital Hate and its CEO a key collaborator with the Biden administration on weaponizing the national security bureaucracy to censor U.S. citizens. This is out of the UK. That's in the government's own words, the U.S. State Department's own words. This is a sworn federal court record saying that this is what the UK did. This is interesting. It was just enforcing the policies that the US establishment and Biden told them to do. Communicated with the White House to find out what they wanted suppressed and how. I mean, at this point, I don't think any of us are very shocked, but I think some kind of normies would be pretty surprised if they took a moment to think about it. They weren't suppressed. Their voice wasn't silenced in any of the COVID stuff, but ours were, right? Anyone who was even remotely right of the far, far left was silenced, channels deleted, platforms stolen out from under them. So even Senator Kennedy has said that there were black ops to deplatform him, targeted takedowns of even some higher up people like himself. So of course, little people like me didn't stand a chance. So we kind of know all of that. That has been now, though, formalized in federal court documents and sworn into record as testimony. So there you go. More evidence that we were right about being so heavily suppressed, as if we needed any more. We also have more confirmation now out of the Epstein files that, you know, what we've all seen in culture, in our movies, and our commercials, and these sorts of things have been coming from these very black, dark, satanic, backroom, you know, pedophoric cults, including we've seen, as we already talked about, I think last week, the trans agenda was definitely talked about and promoted by these sick people like Jeffrey Epstein and his cohort. But we also have Jeffrey Epstein talking with J.P. Morgan senior executive Jess Staley, back and forth emailing about how our movies, our advertisements, and our media had removed white couples and intentionally changed to mixed race couples, especially with Black men and white women. And this is something you already knew, again, if you pay any attention, but people like, you know, oh my gosh, well, how am I forgetting his name? Well, anyways, plenty of people have shared this view and shown why is it, right? It's curious that we're only seeing like Black men, white women couples on commercials and movies and shows and all of this over and over again. Why? That's not what you see in reality. I mean, like you see it, but that's not, it wouldn't predominantly be what you saw if you just looked out into the world, right? So another conspiracy theory proven true. Not even a conspiracy theory. We're just like, it's obvious you have to collaborate on that for everyone to just do it at once. So it's obviously a conspiracy. Anyway, that's more and more comes out of the Epstein stuff. It's not all just pedophores and Satanism. It's also the manipulation of your mind through your media and the intentional demasculization of men, the infantilization of everyone, and things like this with the racial and the DEI and, you know, all that stuff, trans and more. All of it definitely very intentional. We all knew it. Here we have some more evidence of it. We also have this mysterious story of this this airport shut down. It was actually U.S. military forces at Fort Bliss shut down the El Paso airspace. I heard for 10 days. And what I'm confused about is how they shut it down for 10 days, but I at least only heard about it at the end of the 10 days. So how did they keep it so mum? Or why didn't I hear? Did you hear about this El Paso airport being shut down for 10 days? This is the official story about it. It says U.S. military forces at Fort Bliss successfully disabled Mexican cartel drones that entered U.S. airspace near El Paso this week. Anti-UAS technology neutralized at least one cartel drone. Mexican cartels regularly and actively fly drones along the border. Earlier in the week, anti-drone operations near the southern border engaged objects initially believed to be foreign drones. A high-energy laser destroyed one target that was later identified as a harmless party balloon. Like, hold on, I've heard this story before. It's swamp gas. It's an air balloon. Like, it's never what they actually said. And again, at first they said it was a drone, and then they attributed it to cartels, and then they attributed it to a harmless party balloon. But you shut down airspace for 10 days for a balloon? I'm relatively sure you've encountered a balloon before, and even if it set off your radar or something, that you probably didn't shut down airspace for 10 days. Balloons are no joke. They can cause some damage, especially if they fly into like a plane or its, engine or something. It could happen. I saw a Mylar balloon float up and hit a telephone or an electric wire rather right next to a sort of, I don't know if it's actually a transformer, but maybe like the little box that's on the pole next to the electric wire. And when it hit that, it exploded and it shut down the entire city and that area of the city of the electrical grid. That was just a little balloon, Kevlar balloon or whatever they're called, Teflon balloon, whatever they are, the metal ones. So I get like a balloon isn't exactly as harmless as we might think it is, but it's also not a 10-day shutdown. So I'll go on to read. It says these events heighten concerns about military operations near civilian air routes. FAA Administrator Bedford responded by imposing a 10-day airspace closure over El Paso International Airport. The restriction prohibited all flights below 18,000 feet and warned that violators could be shot down. Bedford issued the order without prior consultation with the White House, Pentagon, or Homeland Security. That's what we're told, at least, right? Pentagon had been planning a counter drone test near Fort Bliss, claiming compliance with U.S. codes requirements. Although safety impact meetings were scheduled, Pentagon officials pressed for immediate testing. Coordination between the Pentagon and Department of Transportation had occurred for months, with assurances given that commercial aviation faced no threat. Airlines interpreted the closure as a precautionary measure due to unpredictable military drone activity and insufficient information sharing. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles' office reviewed the situation Wednesday morning, and within minutes, they lifted the restrictions. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the FAA and DOW acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion. The threat has been neutralized. There is no danger to commercial travel in the region. The restrictions have been lifted. So it's quite confusing. There's a supposed like Pentagon wants to test some sort of drone readiness thing in the area that's been being planned for months, but that's not what happened here, even though that seems like the most plausible given what we were just told about it. But what actually supposedly happened was that cartels flew their drones in and they actually had to shoot them down. But also at the same time, there was a balloon that they thought was a drone but wasn't. And they shot that one down with laser weapons. Like, this is the story. And that was a 10-day shutdown. It stinks. It stinks, and it reminds me of all the drone sightings over on the East Coast not that long ago. I'll say again, both of them in no way make me think of actual visitors from outer space. And I'll say for the 10 billionth time that whatever might look like a visitor from outer space to you is almost assuredly an interdimensional intelligence that is plasma based in nature and can look like whatever it wants to you. And if you don't know what I mean, I'm sorry, but that's probably might be what's going on. But party balloon drone mishap is what we're told. So okay, laser it up, do your laser weapon thing. So very interesting, very interesting. But that's all taken care of and done now, we're told. So it's so weird. 14 are arrested in Senegal running French-led pedophile ring. Yay! I mean, actually, yay for taking them down. Good. Like, in the face of all the pedophilia we've got going on in the world, you took around 150 children that you freed in this ring. So thank God. Thank God for that. We can celebrate a win there. The WHO, the U.S. has pulled out of it, but Tedros, their leader, says that U.S. senior officials have not given them any intelligence reports on the origins of COVID. Okay, I'm not worried about that. I don't really care what you do when you do it or if you have any information at all, because I don't respect you. I'm talking to you, Tedros, and the WHO. You can both eat it. Okay. Oh, golly. In Iran, they also burned an effigy of Baal, who I think is actually Moloch. They might be a little confused, but you know, they're maybe very close or the same, actually. So I know a lot of people are going to freak out and be like, well, in my opinion, they may be the same entity presenting in two different ways. And so they burned him. They burned Baal or Moloch, and they said death to Israel. And so you can draw from that whatever you like. But I will, it's funny because people think that the revolution, the potential revolution in Iran is Israel's doing, but the people there is chanting death to Israel as they revolt. So I'm not sure Israel will be super happy with the outcome, but I will like the outcome, I think. And so I like it. I support people who burn effigies of Baal or Moloch. Both are burnable, in my opinion. Okay. What do we got here? Canada's Minister Mark Miller is questioned about the new bill under the Liberal government led by Prime Minister Mark Carney, the demon. Oh, sorry, I inserted that part. That would exempt all ministers from all laws. Dude, Canada, what are you doing? What is happening in your country? Alberta, you need to secede as quickly as possible. This is crazy. This is a real bill, and it literally does that. It exempts all of them from all laws. Why would you need to do that unless you were going to commit heinous crimes and you knew it? Or you already had, and you're hoping you get grandfathered in. Yes, that's the only reason you would. Just like the only reason Democrats would take away all of the repercussions and consequences for trafficking and raping children is because they want children to be trafficked and raped. Yeah, it's easy to know them by their fruits, you guys. It's easy, as I keep telling you. Easy. Literally, that's it. It's just a law that allows them to say which laws they have to follow and when, and therefore exempt themselves from any laws at any time for any reason that they don't have to explain to anyone at all. That's in Canada right now. That's in Canada right now. Some reporter asked him, why should people give you that license to exempt yourself from these laws? How do you know, how do we know that you're not going to just commit heinous crimes? And he says, Canadians can expect us to act reasonably. Oh, can we? Epstein-connected pedivores? I don't think we can. I think Canada should probably get shit under control before that passes. Oh, gosh. The world, I tell you what. Azerbaijan and the U.S. are going to boost economic and security cooperation. J.D. Vance visits Armenia and Azerbaijan after the U.S. peace accord. South Caucasus countries mending ties after decades of war. A planned transit corridor could transform the region. I like it. I am a fan of the Caucasus, of Azerbaijan, of Armenia, and I love that area. It's a biblically significant, historically significant, spiritually significant area. And I don't know what exactly our entire plans are in that region, but it's cool. And we got that. We got that. We have Nancy Guthrie's mother still missing, allegedly, from Tucson, Arizona. They have detained a person to question Nancy Guthrie is the mother. I forget the Samantha Guthrie is the reporter that people would be more familiar with. So a person has been detained for questioning. I haven't heard anything else since then. I don't know how that's turning out for them, but pretty confusing story. None of it really makes that much sense. So some people think that it's a message being sent to Samantha Guthrie because she did do some investigative journalism around Epstein and some of his victims. That was a long time ago, so that seems kind of confusing to me. But if this is all going on kind of more behind the scenes, they're seeing who's willing to talk or testify or whatever, and maybe it is a warning, like, we think you might be likely to testify against all the pedivores, the cult of Satan pedivores, right? And so we'll hurt your mom if you do that. And so maybe, right? Maybe it's something like that. It definitely is connected with Epstein in some way, just on a gut instinct. That's what it feels like to me. So maybe that's it. Netanyahu came to the U.S. He met with Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and others ahead of his meeting with Trump. People are saying that was like a power move to put him in his place and show him that he doesn't just get to jump into Trump's office whenever he wants or be seen right away, and that he doesn't just always get what he wants. So maybe, I don't know. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just a normal thing they always do. I don't really follow it that close. So you tell me if you know better. Moderna says the FDA has refused to review its application for an experimental mRNA flu shot. You have any idea how big that is? Moderna was turned down for the FDA won't even review it. They're not even considering that that's going to be a product that comes to market. Do you know how huge of a win that is? This is amazing. I don't know where everyone's at. And I know the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is dark and seeing the evil in the world is dark, but we're in a place now where the child vaccine schedule went from 70 to 11, and Moderna can't even get an mRNA jab passed. That's amazing. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. God bless. Keep it going. This is great. Okay, I don't even care. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not worth our time, you guys. What's interesting to me is it seems to be switching from people hunting ICE to people hunting Epstein and his associates, and I love it. I'm a big fan. That could get out of hand real quick, but by hunting, I just mean they seem to be showing up at places where Epstein co-conspirators and connected individuals are. It seems to be a left and right thing, so maybe this is something that can unite us all finally. We're all against pedophilia. That I think should be just a human take. Like, we're just against harming children, as I've said before. That's my main dividing line between whether you're evil or not, is like, will you abuse children or will you fight to protect them? You get two choices. You get to choose between those two. So yeah, I'm liking it. I'm liking the idea of it. So keep hunting, my friends. We also have people who are threatening to assassinate Trump, or threatening violence against ICE, or threatening to harm Republicans or right-wing people that come into their hospital, or, all these sorts of things that had been pretty collectively allowed and ignored for many years. Those people are starting to go to jail. So a TikTok wannabe assassin got 3.5 years for saying that they wanted to assassinate Trump and sharing that online with a plan to do so. I'm for it. I'm okay with it. I'll call it a win. A 13-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after launching a stabbing attack at Kingsbury High School in northwest London, injuring 2 students. The attacker is not a student at the school, and witnesses reportedly heard him shouting Allahu Akbar during the rampage. This is another thing. There's a lot going on here. One, that's a person who is on a holy war against native Britons, against Christians in general, and is harming children over it. Again, evil. And also, this person used a knife to carry out the attack. And a lot of people will say, you should still ban guns because these knives are slower. You can't hurt as many people as once. Not necessarily. There's plenty of historical data about knife and axe and other attacks in which tens of people are killed or deeply, gravely injured. we're lucky in this case that it was only 2 kids who were injured, and that they will survive most likely. So prayers to them, love to them. Ideally, we can get a handle on our immigration issue. Kurt Cobain's death is being reopened and investigated. Everyone's really excited about it. I don't care. I've already known that he was murdered my whole life. So good. May justice be done. May Courtney be brought to justice. I know people are really passionate sometimes about Courtney and defending her too. And I think it's it generally is women who are just trying to be kind of solidarity with women, whether they know that or not, having compassion for women and whatnot. But Courtney was really easy to see was a total and complete piece of trash. Also probably cluster B, narcissist perhaps, or again, sociopathic or psychopathic, who knows, all on the same spectrum. So pretty easy to see, pretty easy to guess that she murdered him. But there's also some weird ties that I was looking from Project Cheney's Instagram. She's always sharing such cool things that I don't see anywhere else. And pretty interesting ties between Courtney Love and I think her dad was like CIA or something. And she has sort of classic MK Ultra vibes. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense why she seems so dark, right? So God bless Kurt Cobain's soul. May it rest in peace. And may he have some justice. So interestingly, I know a lot of people are saying like Bad Bunny got like the highest views and whatever, and it's not really true. The NFL lost nearly half of their audience during the halftime show. It also turns out that even though there may have been a very large amount of people who went to view it, most people clicked away, right? And the people who came in to watch it didn't watch the game. And so there's that going on. There's also this thing, they were like, oh, that's more than Michael Jackson got. Well, Michael Jackson performed at a time where far less people watched it. You had to get it live. You had to be like at a TV that received that channel in a place, and like it took effort. And so, and also, again, the population was less. There was less people potential to watch it. It wasn't yet as international, all of that. So if you actually compare it sort of, if you regularize that somehow, Michael Jackson blew him out of the water. It's not even a question. Why would you even argue that? It's crazy. Whether you like Bad Bunny or not, it's pretty ridiculous to argue that that was somehow like the best or the most watched halftime show ever. And also it doesn't freaking matter. You can still obviously note how totally depraved and debased his whole show was. I think I've already gone into this in great detail, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but his lyrics were all about licking asshole, putting a penis in a hole, shoving it in again and again, smoking blunts, and that's it. That's the content of his lyrics. I'm not exaggerating. And if you think that's a great halftime show, God bless you. You're fucking crazy, dude. But there you go. Have fun with your weird, gyrating, sex-heavy, degraded garbage. Trump says interest rates should be lower. Every point is $600 billion. He says, think of that, $600 billion. All he has to do, meaning the head of the Fed, if we went down 2 points, we don't have a deficit anymore. And then everyone can buy houses. Come on, just do it. Just do it. The Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, says he survived an assassination attempt Monday night. I don't know if that's the U.S. trying to kill him or not. Intrigue. I know there's been some threats. Now, who knows? Elisa Murkowski becomes the first Republican senator to reject passing the SAVE Act. Stupid. Again, I don't know if we've already talked about the SAVE. Yeah, we did. It makes our vote safer. I'm all for it. The people who are against it have to be paid off. There's no reason. The majority of the population crossing boundaries of party supports voter reform. So it's you've got to be paid off to not support it. That's just the truth. January 6th, Capitol Police cuffed one of Christopher Wray's 274 plus undercover FBI agents, then brought him inside where they happily uncuffed him and fist bumped him. Mission accomplished. Yep. If you haven't seen that video yet, it's yet more. Again, we could have known the day of. Again, I knew way ahead of time. I was warning people, if you go there, just know it's going to be littered with feds who are going to try to get you to harm people, break buildings, you know, they whatever. That's their whole goal. So be careful. And then I was right. And then that happened. And then even the day of, you could see all kinds of highly suspect characters and even videos that were very clearly meant to support an agenda that there was unbridled chaos, violent chaos there, and many of which were fake. So even back then you could have known, but here you are with more evidence. You can see it for yourself, and very interesting stuff. What did the normies say? Bah! They don't even know it's happening. 3,000 registered voters in Alabama just got booted from the state voter rolls. That's after the Secretary of State went through and ordered their removal because many of them weren't citizens, many of them were dead, all sorts of things, all the shenanigans we've been seeing or knowing about at least more prominently since 2020, but could have known before then too. These are also not new problems. But that's Alabama, and people are pointing out Alabama, deep red state, even Alabama had 3,000 registered voters to purge from the rolls after an audit, even Alabama. So what do you think's happening in blue states? What do you think is happening there? Oh my God. All the fraud. All the fraud all over the place. Okay. We've also had during the Super Bowl was an ad for the Ring cameras. This is weirding out everyone who pays attention. Also, again, not surprising to anyone who's been paying attention, but the Ring cameras aired this thing. They're saying like, oh, we can find your lost dog by activating all the cameras in the region to look for the dog and report it when they see it. That's cool. Makes you feel good. Unless you realize that can be used for anything. It can be used for you if you're a suspect or not. It can be used for you if you're not a suspect, but they just want to find you for some reason. It can be used for all sorts. It can also definitely be used by hackers and other people to find you or others. That's a system that perhaps we don't necessarily want around. I've never thought it was intelligent to have a Ring camera. I genuinely don't even understand the point. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, I don't understand the point. I don't know why anybody would want a Ring camera. It doesn't even make a tiny bit of sense to me. I can't think of one reason why anyone would want it. I'm trying really hard right now to think of one reason, and I can't. So if you can think of one reason, let me know in the comments. I have no idea. Why can't you just answer your door? Why did you need a camera to tell you what happened at your door when you were away? Who cares? Like, it's the same world it's always been. Like, I don't know, dude. So yeah, that's a silly police state sort of technocratic nightmare about to happen with Ring camera owners. Maybe you should get rid of yours if you have it. It's the same with Alexa. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get why you can't just order it the way you've always ordered it, whatever it is you're ordering. Listen to things on other devices the way you've always listened to things. Like, I am not clear on what people find good about Alexa at all. So the ICE director, Todd Lyons, said, I can assure you there's no database that's tracking the United States citizens. This is after they said they were going to track United States citizens who were harassing ICE agents. I think they quickly found out that's probably not completely legal, and so now they have to walk that back. I kind of felt like they were just throwing it back at them. They were saying, oh, you want to track all of us? Well, we're going to track you back. This is pretty childish, not necessary, but yeah, they're saying, no, we're not actually doing that. We have Howard Lutnick held maybe somewhat accountable. I don't know, however you feel about it, when he was brought in to testify on Epstein. He said, I did not have anything you could call a relationship, anything you could call an acquaintance. I literally met him 3 times over 14 years with widespread in-betweens. That's all I can remember. That's all there is in the documents. I highly doubt it. But that's what he said on the floor of Congress. That's his official testimony. So that's what he's saying. I have some faith that actually a lot of people might be held accountable. There's so many people who've already stepped down from positions of power, and there's so much interest in this and so much energy behind it. And who knows, right? Maybe not. I know it's very like cool and black pill to be like, no, they never happens to anyone. But like clearly things do actually happen. And so, we'll see. Here's another release. We learned that Donald Trump snitched on Epstein. We already knew that, but for some reason, people learned it even more deeply as another document was released or highlighted or went viral. I'm not sure. But Michael Wolff, the journalist who we learned was coaching Epstein on how to gain leverage over presidential candidates, said in an interview that Epstein was growing suspicious that Donald Trump was the only one who informed on him. Or sorry, not the only one, just the one who informed on him and set the stage for when his legal troubles truly began. So Michael Wolff and Epstein were emailing back and forth saying Trump's the snitch. Trump's, let them know he's the reason why we have these legal troubles and are starting to be taken down. And yeah, we knew that. That's already been documented that Trump worked with the FBI to try to infiltrate and get evidence on and take some of this down. He's been saying negative things about Epstein since way before even Pizzagate or any of that, since the early 2000s or maybe even beyond. His voice is there as a recording of when he called the FBI to try to get them to come and get him and Ghislaine Maxwell. He said everyone knows what they're doing and how dark and garbage it is and how it's about children and trafficking them. There's so many pieces of evidence, even before this release, that I was kind of surprised people are surprised. But David Wolff also said out loud, like, we wanted dirt on Trump and we couldn't get it. Which you just, again, read between the lines. They tried to ensnare him in a child porn ring so that they could have this dirt on him, but they couldn't get it. So, yeah. Do whatever you want with that. People who follow ICE agents, harass them in their cars, and impede their progress are being arrested. And here's something that supposedly happened while we were asleep after the Super Bowl. It says, Mr. Trump, President Trump, forced Ghislaine Maxwell before Congress. She refused every question. Then her lawyer panicked and offered a deal, clemency for testimony. A woman serving 20 years for sex trafficking is so terrified of what Trump is uncovering that she's begging for a way out. He said no. His Department of Justice released 6 million pages of Epstein files. The result? Prince William and Kate broke their silence for the first time, and they're deeply concerned. The royal family is in full panic mode. Norway's ambassador resigned. Their crown princess apologized. An entire country is crumbling. The chairman of one of America's most powerful law firms, Paul Weiss, resigned overnight. Lord Mandelson is under criminal investigation and stepped down and resigned. Larry Summers resigned from OpenAI. One man released the files, and the entire global elite is falling apart. That all happened while the Super Bowl was happening. So the Ghislaine Maxwell testimony, she pled the fifth over and over and over again. Wouldn't say anything and was saying, I'll testify. In fact, she's saying, I'll clear Trump's name if I get this clemency deal. And he's like, no thanks, which I think is boss. It's pretty rad. Like, you don't need her to clear your name, and you're so not concerned about it that you're like, nothing. Yeah, I don't need you. You can say whatever you want. Pretty interesting stuff. So all of that. Thomas Massey says, well, what we're after is the men who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to. We want the names published. I don't know if he's uninformed or misinformed, but what we want is the men and women who Epstein trafficked children to. I care about the women who are over 18 who are also trafficked, for sure. I care way more about the children. I care way more to know who is a pedophile. So yeah, that's what I'm after, Massey. I don't know what you're after. That's what I'm after. By the way, if you didn't know, the Bad Bunny halftime show, they're being sued. The FCC is being sued for allowing someone to say fuck live on air. That is illegal if you didn't know. There's just a nice little tidbit there for you. We also have this group of women who are claiming to be Epstein survivors. We have someone here who says, I used to be sympathetic towards these survivors, in quotation marks, because, you know, we're human, like we have sympathy, right? She says, but after discovering who's funding their campaign, how they were dead silent under Obama and Biden's presidencies, and how they conveniently never say who abused them under the guise of being threatened while they go on talk shows every week, I've come to the conclusion these women are not survivors, they're parasites. She says they should be ashamed of themselves. Apparently, these Epstein survivors are being funded by George Soros and Rockefeller money. If that doesn't already tell you that they're not actual survivors and that they don't actually have a list of people, and that whoever they accuse will probably not actually be people who are actually pedophores and worse, I don't know what will. Soros and the Rockefellers are highly indicated in the whole Epstein pedophore, black magic, occult, satanic cabal, especially in the Epstein documents. And so if you're going to go with the people who those people fund, probably not going to get the truth. So I'm with this person in saying those supposed survivors are not the survivors I'm interested in, because I don't believe that they're survivors. I believe they're paid actresses who are ready to probably implicate one person, and it's probably Trump. Discord is going to globally require biometric face scans or ID verification for full access to protect, quote, teen safety. Probably because also a lot of countries are saying teens can't use certain sites, and so they may as well implement it everywhere. So Discord's going to have that requirement now. Trump posted a picture of himself talking to European leaders with a map depicting Greenland and Canada as part of the US. That's pretty funny. He's like, yeah, this is all going to be ours. I don't know if it's a power move or if it's just a troll or what, but I think Alberta might want us, and I think Greenland might too. So who knows? It might be somewhat realistic. And we've got a media mogul. Jimmy Lai is sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring to commit sedition and colluding with foreign forces. Good. China, very infiltrated in our media, if you didn't know. And definitely we need to hold people accountable and get China out of our business, essentially. John Fetterman is joining Republicans in favor of the SAVE Act. He's one of the few Democrats that seems to be for it. There was a woman in Oregon who drove by an Lexus sedan and shot pro-ICE protesters, I think. Yeah, drove by right-wing live streamers outside of the ICE facility and fired upon them with a BB gun. It's wild. They recorded her doing it, and she knew they were recording her doing it, and she shot them with a realistic-looking gun, but it was a BB gun. I don't know if you know this, but it's illegal to shoot people with BB guns. So I think she thought she could get away with it because it was just a BB gun. But no, she's being prosecuted. That's assault with a weapon, and it's probably going to carry. Then again, she's in Oregon, so they're probably not going to actually prosecute or hold her accountable at all. But she did get fired from her job, so at least she had some repercussions. Someone can hold her accountable, even if the government won't. Pretty crazy. I mean, I'm glad they didn't get shot, but it's like, why do you think you can shoot people with a BB gun? Dude, leftists are the most entitled people I've ever known in my life. Consistently. Oh, Zelensky's in the Epstein files as a child trafficker. Surprise! Not a surprise to anybody who pays attention. What's this? Sometimes I don't even know what I left for myself. Oh, if you've never heard a clip of Bad Bunny without his auto-tune and without his background track, he can't sing. He's not talented. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah. You can tell. So you don't actually need to hear him without the background and the auto-tune, but if you do, you'll be like, why is he getting paid? And the answer is because he will sing about licking assholes on halftime if you ask him to. Okay. What else we got here, guys? Oh, we have this weird release in the Epstein files too, where the FBI was scared to prosecute David Copperfield. I don't know if it's just because he's wealthy. I mean, everyone is. So I have a lot of people, I should say, that they're going to prosecute R. So is that, or do they think he's really magic and they can like hex him? He can hex them. Is that it? I don't know. The indication is they're afraid of his massive resources and that he could kind of hold things up for a while. But I'm wondering if they were scared of his magic. The Norway ambassador quits. We already heard that. The anti-ICE rioters have started using dildos. I think we talked about that on day 0 this week. It's, I would think, somewhat expensive. There's another indication that you're being funded, that you just have tons of dildos to throw around like confetti. France ripped out every American tech platform from their entire government. Microsoft Teams gone, Zoom gone. I thought that was Chinese, but I don't know. Gmail gone. That's 2.5 million French workers no longer using American software. France is saving $30 million a year that was flowing to Silicon Valley. Germany's ditching Microsoft. Austria, Denmark, and Switzerland are all jumping ship. Billions walking out the door. And this is set to take effect by 2027. And this is what people are saying about it. They're saying it's because we have Trump in office and that they hate Trump and hate America now so much that they refuse to send any of their money or resources into any sort of American venture. And they think that's a win. Here's the real reason. The real reason they're not using those things anymore is because they're no longer allowed to silence American citizens. Those platforms they listed are just some of them. There's like the social media and otherwise are fighting back that they can't control Musk and that they can't control free speech. So they're ditching all of this stuff. They don't want to comply with our freedom, and we won't let them silence our people with their stupid rules about what you can and can't say and post. And so they're just disentangling themselves altogether from that sector of media in general. So people think that it's because of Trump and that it's a hatred thing, and it's not. It's all about freedom of speech and these laws that are restricting people and what they can and can't do, what they're requiring people to, sign on or off, or how they have to verify it, all that sort of stuff. So that's the real disagreement here. Don't be fooled by, I mean, I'm sure they're happy to stick it to Trump too, but it really doesn't stick it to Trump to stop using Zoom. I mean, it just doesn't. So it's not part of it, in my opinion. Yes. And Vietnam is constructing the world's largest soccer stadium, the Trong Dong Stadium, with a capacity of 135,000. Yeah, but why would you want to be somewhere with 135,000 other people? I don't know, man, but I guess. Trump posted a video of the evidence, some of the evidence of one of the states stealing the 2020 election. At the very end of that video, for just a split second, was a new video beginning, and in that video, Obama and his wife are shown as apes. If you watched the rest of that video, if you could find it and watch it, you would see that there were also Black people depicted as other animals, and there were white people depicted as monkeys and apes. And so it wasn't even seemingly racial, even in that video itself. But because that 1 second got tacked on to like a 2-minute or more video that was actually about election rigging and stealing, the world went crazy and called him racist again. And yeah, it's maybe lamentable that someone didn't vet that more, that he didn't, vet that more and not include that 1 second of the video that wasn't the point of the post. Sure. But especially when you then see that like that video is also not racist and it just shows all kinds of Republican, or actually I think they're all Democrats anyway, as wild savanna like African animals like elephants and giraffes and the like singing in the jungle, and that none of it's racial at all. Um, then you kind of have to let it go. But people won't let it go, will they? Because people already were saying Trump was racist before that happened, and now they get to enjoy the moment of feeling vindicated about it, even though they're too stupid to know what actually happened. So, like it or not, hate him or not, think he's racist or not, that's what actually happened. Will Lewis resigned from the Washington Post. I don't know if that's Epstein connected or something else. Sorry that I don't know. Oh, sabotage in Italy's railway network leading up to the Olympics. Italy also rioting in the face of the Olympics, opposing environmental issues related to the games. Tear gas was fired at the protesters to get them away and have them stop. Chaos in Italy around the Olympics. Every time the Olympics goes anywhere, there's basically protesters, because it is usually pretty garbage how they just bulldoze anything they feel like ship out all the homeless people, like build these giant buildings and infrastructure for these games. You'd think we could just kind of have Olympic grounds everywhere that were already there that we could use for other things in the meantime and not have so many of these issues, but we have those issues every time there is an Olympics. The U.S. is going to resurrect a Cold War era 190,000 square foot nuclear plant after a 30-year dormancy. You know me, I'm always happy to see nuclear coming back. The Democrats wish Trump would, quote, let it go regarding the 2020 election. They wish he would just move on. If you don't know, they've been in there getting all this election data, and it's very, very obvious that the 2020 election was stolen. So people are going to go down with that. We'll see what actually happens. For the first time in 25 years, an endangered Asian elephant calf was born in a zoo. I could celebrate the birth of an elephant and still be sad that it's in a zoo. For conservation purposes, I'm glad this elephant joined us here on Earth. We have another video of ICE protesters attacking their own as a truck drives by. They start throwing their dildos at it, and he says, I'm one of you, I'm on your side, I'm one of you. They just keep throwing dildos and being like, get out of here, ICE. It's just like, I'm happy when you destroy yourself and eat your own. That's fine with me. You keep doing that. Okay. We got, how much more here? Oh my God. We'll try to get through some of this. We'll see if there's some we don't need to look at. Joseph Gordon-Levitt went to Capitol Hill to, I didn't know he was like this, to counter digital hate. He essentially wants censorship, especially for supposed anti-Semitism. So screw him. Sorry, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thought I liked you. Didn't. Freedom of speech wins every time. We have some more Rothschild's personal art coming out, depicting their version of Europe in a race war in which white people are all being slaughtered by black people. This is what people like the Rothschilds think about, hope for, plan for, try to make happen. And, oh, look, they almost made it happen or are making it happen with their massive influx of immigrants who are raping and killing white people. Oh, wow. Turns out they can actually make it happen. All right, well, death to their plans, right? Cops have raided Nat Rothschild's property that he rented to Lord Mandelson, who was disgraced by the Epstein files and stepped down. So even a Rothschild's property is being raided. Again, you can say all you want that nothing's happening from all this, but plenty is happening, and humans take time to make things happen, so it's okay. The World Health Organization refused to return a U.S. flag to the U.S. after Trump withdrew from the WHO. So they sent in the troops and they got the flag back. I love it. Good. They're like, nope, that's our flag. You can't have it. We're not part of the WHO. We will not fund you, and also give us our flag back. Thanks. Okay. Yes, they're still deporting people. Yes. New York has medical aid in dying. That's the 13th state in the US to authorize human euthanasia for terminally ill adults. It does start there, and then as you can see in Canada, it moves on from there to all people at all times for any reason. So I'd like to I don't like euthanasia as much as I thought I did. I don't know. Yeah, if it was just exceptionally strict and it never changed from that strictness, sure, but the slippery slope, unfortunately, is actually a slippery slope. And we've got the weird geoengineered snow that people are showing. I know we've had this many times in the past, shown videos about it, talked about it. They've been spraying the sky crazy heavy for the past handful of weeks here in Colorado. Like crazy. Like it hasn't been like this for, I can't remember, for a while. So lots and lots of spray, but we're not getting any snow or rain. Maybe that's why. Their geoengineering tricks are always so fun. But somewhere where it did get snow, they were showing the snow that wouldn't melt. And unlike some past snow that wouldn't melt videos, which there actually may be a good explanation of why snow sometimes can seem to not melt for a while, even with like a blowtorch on it. This is showing the snow not melting and how you can pick up like a layer of, God, it almost looks like plastic that's sort of on top of the snow, and you can pick it up and it's almost webby. And I don't know if you remember back in the day chemtrails, but that used to be more common. You could find that webbing on stuff, and I think they toned that down because it's way too easy to be like, there they are spraying, here it is coming down, and now there's the webbing, right? So this person got a video and found some more of that old school chemtrail webbing, which is so disturbing. You know, when they have biologically tested this, and this was from Sophia Storm et al. back in the day, like, I don't know, 2009 or something, talking about testing this and finding desiccated human flesh, all kinds of molds, strontium, barium, of course, that's the kind of the usual for chemtrails, but desiccated flesh, what? So talk about Satanists. It's not good. So I don't know, if you find anything like that around your house, definitely take video, send it in, let me know. It's pretty wild stuff. Keep yourself healthy, of course. That's how you don't let the chemtrails win. Oh gosh. Oh, Ilhan Omar says voter ID laws are oppression, but in her home country of Somalia, you have to have voter ID. You have to have ID to vote. So Somalia can do it as a country, and that's great. But the US can't do it because that's oppression. In California, for example, Laura Urek self-reported she had registered her dog to vote and had in fact cast a mail-in ballot on behalf of her dog. That's fraud, and I wouldn't admit that out loud, but it just goes to show, if you could register a dog to vote and it can vote, we've got problems, and we should probably have the SAVE Act. We also have this woman who, I think she's a Rothschild. Someone's interviewing her, I think on the BBC, and they're like, are you in the Epstein files? She's like, of course I am. Everyone who's anyone is in the Epstein files. If you're not in the Epstein files, you're a bit of a loser. That's what she says. And I said, I would love to be that type of loser for all of my incarnations, for all of time. Thank God that I'm that kind of loser. Proud loser here. Kyle Wagner, the proud Antifa member who is freaking out and calling everyone to go out and get violent and shoot people on the streets, has been arrested. Oof. And one of the darkest things in the Epstein files is a journal by one of the child trafficked children, young adults who was forced to carry and give birth to babies over and over again, had the baby stripped from her instantly. You can find her journal and read it if you want. Vigilant Citizen did a really good deep dive into that journal. If you want to read someone who's already looked at it, that you don't have to definitely get deep into the darkness yourself. So that's a good place to go check it out. The Vigilant Citizen has always done good work. But this is really disturbing. And again, it's not new to anyone who's been paying attention to pedivores for any amount of time. We've had plenty of young children come forth and talk about being forced to give birth to infants. And either they get disappeared instantly, the babies are just gone and they never talk to them again, which you can imagine what that does to a young woman. Or worse than that, the young woman is then forced to do things to that baby that are satanic rituals in themselves. So really horrible things. And again, part of why we want to remember that this is what's happened and happening is there's a lot of people who their take on the Epstein files is that Epstein mostly trafficked women, which is definitely not children, and that this was more like a sex slave adult woman thing or a prostitution thing. And that's a lot more acceptable. Still not good, still not acceptable, still not okay, but a lot more acceptable than being a pedivore, trafficking children, satanic rituals with children. So I don't let people forget. If people say to me women like Thomas Massey did, I say children. Children were trafficked, children were eaten, children were raped, children were abused. I'm not as worried about the women. And so I don't let people forget. So that's why it's important to remember what has been done and not let it go. The Olympics opening ceremony was, of course, satanic as usual. I posted some images. There definitely was themes of keeping everyone in an inverted spiral, which is a spiral of destruction. We also had symbols of the inverted pentagram, which is a symbol of inversion of Christ's energy to a Satanist. It's a different symbol to other people of other religions or other traditions, yes, but to a Satanist, that's what that means. It is the praise for Moloch and child sacrifice when it's an inverted pentagram. And there was also symbolism that I haven't talked about anywhere else, but that indicated the entrapment of human will. The entrapment of human will. And that's something they've been after for a long time. And if you've ever worked with me or you listen to me talk about my spiritual healing work, most people I work with, we're working on reclaiming and strengthening our will in alignment with divine will. And a Satanist would definitely not want you to do that. And so they definitely had some symbolism around that as well. So as dark and satanic as always. Nothing new there, just a slightly different theme. Okay. Okay, Trump is allowed to gut DEI and remove it from government spending. A judge has ruled that. That's good. And Epstein didn't kill himself. I think that's obvious. People are just more interested in it again now that it's all resurfacing, but of course he didn't. Sri Lanka is going to pursue reparations from the UK. Interesting. Iran both has wanted to talk and not wanted to talk with the US, and we're all posturing to each other. Trump celebrates a strong return of faith at a prayer breakfast. He's celebrating the return of faith to the United States and its citizens. Trump has always been one of the few politicians who will openly talk about his faith in God and Jesus and actually mention Jesus by name, which is very rare in politicians. So I find that to be laudable. The FBI has arrested one of the key participants behind the Benghazi attack. This is ahead of Clinton testifying at the end of the month here, coming up soon. So Benghazi, of course, connected to Clinton and much more. We'll see what happens with it all. We talked about that. Federal judge orders the IRS to stop sharing taxpayer data with ICE. That's probably going to get overturned. Okay. All right, we did it. We did it, guys. We got through it. Sometimes there's so much to cover in so little time, and I do my best to condense it for you all. I know the feedback I get about the people who absolutely love the winning report is that they're so glad they don't have to go sifting through everything, can listen to the winning report, get a good idea of what's going on, and what kind of to look at various different angles to sort of see through some of the agenda and the confusion that can exist. And so I love doing that for you guys and with you guys. Thank you, of course, as always, for your support. I would love for all of you to go to rogueways.substack.com, become a paid subscriber, support what I do, support the venture. And so I can continue, of course, doing this, giving you value. You can give some value back where you've found it here. And of course, you know where to find me if I can support you with any past life tarot, spiritual healing, or any of that kind of work. That's also there on roguesoul.org, where you can book sessions with me, pick up the books and more. And until we eradicate all the pedivores and make sure everyone understands that you don't get to be a human being with us unless you're on the side of good and you commit to protecting children at all costs. Travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. Hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.